Hello everybody, today we're going to take a look at the famous Dollhouse Cemetery in West Tennessee. There's a lot of history to the Dollhouse. We'll get to it here shortly as Mimi pans around with the camera. First we're going to take a look because this is a historical cemetery, many old graves here. So we want to kind of just take a look at some of the graves and maybe just look at some of the history, because I find these very fascinating, because as we span around we take a look at some of the tombstones. Some of them are very old. Now each grave tells a story, and I feel like with some of these tombstones, as you see, some of them are very old, very out of shape. The cemetery itself is well kept, but some of the graves are just very old, not in that great a condition. But nevertheless, the story still remains. I just think it's so fascinating. So we're going to take a walk around and just kind of look at some of the older tombstones. Maybe we can get a glimpse of some of the stories, or just try and figure out some of the stories. Then we'll actually go see the Dollhouse itself. So let's kind of look at some of these older ones here. And looks like a family here. What's the date on that? 1894. W.M. Jacobs, 1894. Not terrible shape, a little weathered, but like I said, not terrible shape to be over 100 years old. I got some leaning back here. I want to take a look at some of these older ones back here. They look very weathered, and I'm just wondering kind of what their story is. Now, one thing we've noticed about this cemetery here is we see a lot of Masonic symbols. Now the thing with the Freemasons, of course, a lot of the older tombstones, you'll see a lot of Masonic symbols on them. Of course, you know, the Freemasons were a big deal, you know, in the first, the 18th, 19th, 20th century. And you see a lot of those symbols here. And if anybody knows some of these meanings, now of course there's the all-seeing eye. And, you know, in today's generation, that might be considered Illuminati, which is tied in with the Masons. But I wonder, is there a date on that one anywhere? Maybe I'm behind.
I don't see a date.
But it's a very interesting tombstone anyway.
1882. Oh, 1936 to 1882.
Actually, it's born 1836 to 1882, it looks like. So very interesting. Weathered, but still in pretty good shape. And I apologize because I was actually standing on the grave, but again, this is very, very old. So just interesting. It's almost, you know, the way this one's shaped. The grave itself is basically encased in stones, and its own little stone house here. But then right next to it, maybe you can get a glimpse of that one. This one also has the Masonic symbol.
Oh, that one broke.
So this particular cemetery, there's several tombstones with the Masonic symbol.
1843 to
or some type of Masonic symbol on it.
1922.
Let's look around some of these back here. This one, has it fallen over? Yeah, it's obviously fallen over. And that's the thing about, you know, some of these graves. It's, you know, over time, you know, when we think, you know, we want to celebrate our death, but over time, you know, some of them just dilapidate. And looks like this one's fallen over, and basically it's been, you know, horizontal so long that it's just became part of the earth here. And it's probably not going to be long for grass covers it up, and you won't even be able to see it at all. This is 1851, it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Similar, there's some similar ones here. 1864, and again they've fallen over as well. This one's pretty weathered. You can just about get a glimpse of the dates on this one. Looks like 1856. Picture of a dove. Very similar stone here as well.
1825 to 1859.
Now these here we're always enamored by. Some of the older seminaries, you'll see some of these more elaborate headstones. And as you can see, you know, basically the shape of a log, wood. And these were for members of the Woodmen of the World. Woodmen of the World of America. Now, I don't know a lot about the Woodmen of the World. I do know, you know, the insurance company, but so I'm assuming it's the same. But basically, if you remember a member of their company over a period of years, of course, you know, some people, if you retire for a company, you know, you get a gold watch or whatever for 30 years. But if you're a member of the Woodmen of the World Society, basically you were entitled to this type of tombstone. I'm not sure if you had to pay extra for it or not, but you'll see a lot of these in some older cemeteries. What was the date on this one? 1907. Wow. So maybe I need to brush up on the Woodmen of the World. But like I said, I know them from the insurance now, and you will see some of these in a lot of older cemeteries. I've never seen one this old. Usually I see them around the 1950s, mid 20th century. But if anybody has some information on those, about the Woodmen of the World and their tombstones, you know, like I said, leave in the comments. You see a lot of older grave sites here. Some, you know, I'm not
That
sure.
one fell.
Yeah, that's another one that's fallen. And
Almost can't make it out.
yeah, not sure what the date is on that. That's broken ones over here as well, it looks like. That 1878, it looks like. Yeah.
It's a lamb.
I don't know if you can get the camera on this one maybe or not, but look, this one's falling over. It looks like they've kind of just put some bricks to kind of try and hold it up. Similar situation on a lot of these. It looks like you can see a lot of them falling over here. It's interesting here. This is an older one. And let's see if we can get the date on it.
1879 to 1901.
Okay. But interesting though, because at least it looks like somebody has been out here and placed a flag on it. So at least, you know, being as old as it is, and through the generations, at least somebody's still coming out here. Get a good shot of this one, maybe. Was that 1897?
1856 to 1897.
And like I said, a lot of older graves around here. So we'll venture up to the Dollhouse, which is the reason for our visit. And along the way, maybe we can see some interesting and historical tombstones as well. I did see one over here I want to get another shot of because it has a Masonic symbol as well. And this one looks like it has been broken, but you know, it looks like maybe they've tried to take a little care of it anyway. I can see the steel braces on it. Wow, 1861. So in all honesty, 1861 is not in bad shape, even though it has broken. It looks like, yeah, I can see the mold and algae on it, so looks like it has been cleaned up. Somebody's definitely taken care of it. But I just think it's interesting because the Masonic symbol was such a, you know, and Freemasonry was such, you know, it was so important back in those days that they would actually want to have the symbol on their gravestone. As you can see, a lot of graves, very old, very dilapidated. Like I said, it's just such a shame because, you know, people, you know, they want to be memorialized, and they are, but those stones aren't going to be there forever, you know, and for the shape they're in now, you know, it's actually just a matter of a few years before they're totally forgotten. right there, Mimi, with the Masonic symbol. Looks like not quite as early as ones we were looking at earlier. Looks like dates of death 1940s. But again, like I said, all the way up, to the 1950s. Most of the graveyards that we visit that have the Masonic symbol, they're usually turn of the century, turn of the 20th century, or around the mid 20th century. This is very interesting as well. What's the date on it?
1864 to 1890. I don't know what that.
1898 maybe.
Maybe.
So very elaborate. Weathered.
A lot of detail.
Yeah, weathered, but not in terrible condition. It's just amazing because a lot of times when we visit the graveyards, the older, late 1800s, early 1900s, the more elaborate tombstones. And, it's just amazing to me because obviously, when they want their life to be memorialized and to tell the story and to be remembered by such. But as you can see, over time they just dilapidate, and over generations, maybe nobody comes to visit, and it just begs the question, why? Again, another Masonic symbol. Like I said, we'll see you.
1842 to 1914.
1842 to 1914. Not sure what we have here. Is this a tombstone that's just sunken or just a marker? Not sure.
I think it's a marker because right there it says mother.
Where?
Right here it says mother.
Yeah.
That's a marker.
So maybe a stone that's just sunken into the ground over time.
Another one right there. There's another one right here. That's sunk.
And there's another one. Mother as well. Broken one real quick. Okay.
It's a baby.
So, not sure if it belongs with this one or not, but it certainly matches it, but this one 1892 to 1918, so this one obviously should be somewhere with this one, I'm guessing. That's in very good condition, and that's an original picture as well. That's weathered. It's held up well over the course of time. Alright, now we're going to make our way over to the Dollhouse, what this cemetery is most famous for. And just to give you a little bit of information on this dollhouse. Now the story is a little girl, 5-year-old girl. Her family was traveling through town searching for work. They were headed up north searching for work, and along the way she contacted measles. And because the family, was looking for work at the time, they had to keep moving, that the community pitched in and basically helped them bury their daughter and built this dollhouse over it. Now, this is not the original dollhouse. It's actually went through several different versions over the years because of vandalism, etc. Up until probably, a few years ago, it was a place for teenagers, as you can imagine, high schoolers wanting to come and visit the dollhouse, thinking it was haunted, coming out here at night, drinking beer, etc. So I do remember at one time this actually had glass windows around it, and I remember reading in the newspaper that it had been vandalized and the glass had been broken, etc. And it still has glass windows, but it was actually a much nicer building, probably about 20 years ago or so. But I do remember reading about it being vandalized, and obviously it was rebuilt. And I'm sure, like I said, this grave is almost 100 years old, so I'm sure it's probably had several different incarnations. But nevertheless, let's take a look at the one that exists now. So I know maybe you did do a little close-ups, but let's just dig in a little bit deeper and just see what is in there. Because I remember visiting this when I was younger, and you couldn't actually open the door at that time. It was, it was locked, and it was a much better structure.
Headstone up there in the front, and the cross with the mother's name on it.
And you can see it's grown up in here, and
1908 is the date.
you can see that, it has grown up in here. It looks like people's tried to, kind of keep it original by having dolls and such in here. But obviously you can tell these dolls are, not 100 years old. So, like I said, this used to be much, much nicer. Now we're gonna go around looking through the other window and see if we can see the actual headstone.
I tried. This window's a little dirty. It's got a fern growing.
Okay, so yeah, 1926 to 1931. So she was 5 years old, and this is her headstone. This is her actual burial. And it's just a shame that it's been vandalized and such. And, I understand kids be kids, but still, respect. Like I said, the girl was only 5. And not sure the real story. That's just one story that I've heard about her parents, traveling through town, and she contacted measles, and of course they had to keep moving. But there's several other stories as well. I'm not sure anybody knows the exact details of this dollhouse and the little girl's death. It is said, of course, with any graveyard that, it's said, that's probably why kids come out here so much, teenagers come out here so much, they want to have a good time and see if they can, experience a haunting, because it is said that, it is haunted. You can see the little girl looking through the glass windows at night. Not sure if that's true or not, but nevertheless, it's just a shame that's been vandalized as such. But at the same time, the story itself is just so interesting, because the little girl, they were not even from here. The family was not even from here. But this dollhouse has, I'm gonna go ahead and say maintained, because, even though it's been vandalized, they have rebuilt it, and kept it in pretty good shape, because it is almost 100 years old. So do respect that. Looks like it could use a little bit more renovations, as probably, storm damage, etc. And obviously it's grown up in there, but still respect the fact that it's been kept up so much, because probably no family exists that actually comes and visits this grave, I'm assuming. So again, very historical cemetery. Wish we had time to actually visit each one, because each grave does tell a story. And with this, along with every other cemetery, the graves tell a story. Those were lives there. It's just, thing is, with this being such a historical cemetery, and you can see the graves that are very weathered, you just wonder, why? Why go to such lengths? Because obviously these people, you can see some of the elaborate tombstones, etc. Want to be memorialized, but you just wonder if people even come visit, even take care of these any longer.